This is your Sports Boys, and today we'll be doing our final NBA mock draft of this NBA draft. So let's get this website pulled up real quick. Alright, so now we're starting off with the first pick, which is the Hawks. I don't believe the Hawks will be making this pick. I think it'll be a different team. But I'm still going to go and select Zachary Rizachet because I think if a team trades with the Hawks, which they probably will because I don't think they want Rizachet, they might select Sarr. But I kind of doubt it. I think they'll probably trade their pick to maybe someone like the Spurs, and the Spurs will give them 4 and 8 or something like that. I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't quote me there. And then with the second pick, I believe the Washington Wizards will select Alex Sarr. Um, I mean, I think he should go one. Obviously, I said that in my other draft the other day that I did. Top 30 prospects. Go and check that out if you're interested. And I think Sarr, I had him going one as my top 30 prospects. I think he just has the most upside. He's super tall. His defense is great. I think his scoring ability is pretty good for a big. I think as long as he can just kind of figure that out in the NBA, since that's quite a bit different than the French leagues over there. But I think his defense will definitely carry over into the NBA, and along with his scoring because he's got a lot of size inside, and I think that'll set him apart from any of these other prospects in this draft. Alright, now with the third pick, I'll be selecting Reed Sheppard. Obviously, he can shoot the lights out. I think it's pretty obvious at this point that Houston will probably select him, although I believe they should probably select Rob Dillingham here. I think they're both really great shooters, so they're pretty similar players, but I just think Rob Dillingham gets more open and gets easier shots. And I also watched a very incredible dunk by him today, showing that he has great athleticism and great bounce. And I definitely don't think Reed Sheppard is as athletic, but I think he's just as good of a shooter. And I think it's still a smart move for Houston here. Alright, now with the fourth pick, I'll be selecting Stephon Castle. I mean, his playmaking is great. I think he's just been moving up the board quite a bit. It's kind of hard to pass on him, especially if you're San Antonio and you need that playmaking. Pass Wemby the ball. His assist stats don't look very good, but I still see great playmaking in him. 4.7 rebounds is pretty good. I mean, he is 6'5", so that's pretty easy to get 4.7 rebounds, but unlike someone like Reed Sheppard or Rob Dillingham, it's harder to get boards, but I think that's kind of what makes Stephon Castle better is because he's a taller guard. 2.9 assists, like I said, not great. 11.1 points, also not great, but if you watch him in college or his highlights or anything, you'll see he's a very high efficiency player who has good feel for the game, and he's very good at getting to the basket. He uses some strategies kind of like Jalen Brunson uses, kind of pins him behind the back and then goes and scores. And he just, it's kind of like a pinball going through traffic, just bouncing off defenders. And I think that's why the San Antonio Spurs will select him here at 4. Obviously, this is me trying to do the most accurate mock draft I can. This isn't how I believe it's going to happen. But it also kind of is. I'll be selecting Mataz Buzelis here. I'm a pretty big fan of this guy. And for a white guy, he can really jump. I think it's kind of bad because he's a pretty mediocre shooter. Um, yeah, but anyways, he's at a G League Ignite, 6'8", wing. I think he's probably one of the better wings in this draft. I would say Holland's a little bit better than him out of G League Ignite, but still a great choice for Detroit here. Alrighty, now with the sixth pick, I'll be selecting Rob Dillingham. Um, Obviously, I said I would take him at 3 to Houston, but I don't see that happening in the draft today. So I'll be selecting Rob Dillingham for the Charlotte Hornets here. Obviously, you can see his points are a little bit better than Reed Shepherd's, not by much. Assist numbers, not much better than Reed Shepherd's. 2.9 rebounds. I mean, he's 6'1", so kind of justifies that. But obviously, like I said, he's an incredible shooter, probably one of the best shooters in this draft alongside Reed Shepherd. And I think if you don't pick him here, you're kind of crazy if you're Charlotte, because LaMelo can't really stay healthy and you need someone to orchestrate the offense. At 19 years old, this is the perfect player. He has time to develop in this offense as he gets older. Alright, now with the 7th pick, I believe I selected Donovan Clingan here, but let me double check. Yes, I do have Donovan Clingan going here. I think Donovan Clingan was definitely higher up the board at the beginning, but I think he's started to fall a little bit. Obviously, Kevin Pelton has him, I think, 1 on his draft by the numbers and all that. And so I think that might make teams want to go and select him higher. But also, I don't think people really judge it off Pelton's, even though they probably should. Now with the 8th pick, I guess I didn't really talk much on Donovan Clingan. 7'1" big, out of UConn. He's just a great center. Well, maybe not a great, but he's like a solid center. One of my least favorite centers in this draft, but I still think you have to take him here at 7 if he falls this far, which I kind of wonder if he will, because I think a lot of teams do see his upside and his great defensive potential, and he knows what to do as a center. He has good feel for his position as a center. Alright, now with the 8th pick, I'll be selecting Ron Holland. Although I'd like the Jazz to get him at 10, I just don't really see it happening because, in my opinion, Ron Holland's probably the best player in this draft. I mean, 6'6", his athleticism's just through the roof, and then his defense is also great too. And I think those are just 2 amazing attributes to have. And I don't really think any other wing has that in this draft, or just any other player in general. I think he has something that no other players have, and that's 2 great attributes. Obviously, his shooting's a big concern, which I think is why he'll fall this far, or else I think he would go like as high as 4 to all the way to 8 or 10 or whatever. But I'm not really concerned about his shot. I think he's still great, even with bad shooting. Alright, now I'll be selecting Dalton Knecht, small forward out of Tennessee. 6'5". Obviously, his stats are just incredible. And I think Memphis is the perfect team to select him. I'm not super high on him just because of his age, being 22 years old. But also, I kind of am because he's one of the better scorers in this draft. And I think if Memphis doesn't take him here, that'd be pretty crazy. And if he does fall, maybe I could see the Jazz taking him, but I just don't see him falling to 10. And I honestly do not want the Jazz to take him at 10. But if he's there, maybe. It just depends on who's there. But maybe they try and trade for somebody with all their picks they got. There's nobody there at 10 that they want. I had them selecting Bub Carrington here. He's down the board quite a ways. They have him projected 18. One of my favorite players in this draft. He's kind of just such a dynamic player that you can't really pass up on him, and he's also got that playmaking. He's one of the taller point guards in this draft, and honestly, my favorite point guard in this draft. I mean, I like Castle. I like a bunch of other point guards like Dillingham and all them, but I think Carrington's still my favorite. Kind of on the lower efficiency side, but I think that's not really concerning. I think he's obviously shown what he can do. He slashes great. He does great step backs, crossovers to get open for threes, and 4.1 assists is pretty good in college. 5.2 rebounds, good. 13.8 points isn't great, but I think he'll develop in the NBA. And I think that this points per game is pretty reasonable for the NBA. Like, I think he could average that in the NBA. Like, obviously, maybe not in his first year, but after a while. Alrighty, here I'll be selecting Tajane Salon. I'm not super high on him. Where is Tajane Salon? There he is. Alright, yeah, I'll be selecting him here at 11. Obviously, he's one of the most hyped up prospects in this draft. When I watched him, I don't really see anything great out of him. I mean, obviously, he's a big power forward. People are comparing him to being like potentially the next Giannis, which when Giannis came out, nobody really thought he was good either. I mean, he was just first coming out of college. So maybe that's kind of what Tajane Salon is here at 11. But you're kind of just like guessing that if there's like even a chance that he's going to be Giannis, then you're just going to take him, you know? And I think that's what the Bulls do there at 11. And at 12, I believe I have Cody Williams going here. I do. Cody Williams will be joining his brother to play for the Oklahoma City Thunder. If you don't know, his brother's Jalen Williams. And so I think it would be good for him to have a mentor in OKC. And I think that's what Jalen Williams will do for him. Obviously, when my dad was on the podcast, he said that Jalen Williams must have ate all of his food because he's only 178 pounds, which is really small for a 6'6" shooting guard. But I thought that was pretty funny. And obviously his stats aren't great, so that's kind of another reason that I don't think the Jazz should draft him at 10, even though there is some rumors that people want him to go 10 or something like that. But I just don't really see it. I mean, obviously higher efficiency for a shooting guard, but the stats just aren't great. Obviously he's super athletic and lengthy, so that's good. I'll be selecting Devin Carter here, a point guard who can basically do it all. I mean, his points per game are great. If he was on a team that was in the playoffs, I think he could contribute great here. I mean, 8.7 rebounds for a guy who's 6'2" is just absolutely incredible. 21 years old. His stats are better, which is what I like out of a decently older player, because I think as they get older, they should get better stats, and that's what happened here with Devin Carter. And I think if Sacramento passes on him at 13, that'd be crazy, since he can basically do it all at 6'2". Alrighty, I'll be selecting Jacoby Walter here. I'm honestly not a big fan of him. I don't know him very good. 6'4", shooting guard out of Baylor. I don't really have much to say about him because I don't know a ton about him, so we'll just pass on this pick. But I think he's just a good positional fit for that team. Alrighty, now we're at the 15th pick, where I'll be selecting Nikola Topic. Obviously his injury kind of made him fall quite far. He was projected all the way from like 4 to 8 or whatever, and since his injury has occurred, he's fell all the way till 15 in mine. Some people have him going 13, 14 still, but I have him falling a little farther down to 15. 6'5" point guard, another one of those tall point guards who's a really good passer. He's not the best shooter, which is kind of concerning about him, but there's not really too many point guards who are good shooters in this draft besides Reed Sheppard and Dillingham and a few other people. But yeah, I think he's another one of those kind of concerning point guards because they can't shoot very well. But I still think this is a good pick for Miami since he has good upside. I'm not a huge fan of Nikola Topic, but I think this is kind of the perfect pick for Miami. Alrighty. Alright, I select Jared McCain here for the Philadelphia 76ers. Jared McCain, point guard out of Duke, 6'2". Obviously, his rebound numbers are up there with Devin Carter's. Not quite there, but they're pretty similar in that aspect. Not great assists for a point guard, which to me is super concerning because I'm a big fan of point guards who can pass, kind of like Tyler Kolek and some other guards in this draft. And his points are pretty good for a 19-year-old. It's not too concerning on as far as his points per game goes, but the assist category is kind of scaring me here. That's why I think he falls down here to 16. But obviously, I don't think he could go really much further ahead of 16. I could see him going like 17, 18, probably 18, honestly, but I'll be selecting him here at 16. I don't think the 76ers will pass up on him just because of his upside. Alright, with the 17th pick, I'll be selecting Kelly Ware. I believe that was the right pick. Yes, it was. One of my favorite centers in this draft. His mobility's very good. He's a rebounding beast. I think this will help the Los Angeles Lakers out quite a bit because obviously they don't have a good center coming off the bench for Anthony Davis. I mean, you could argue Christian Wood's a decent center, but ever since he joined the Lakers, he hasn't been a very good center, although he was on his other teams. But I think that's kind of what you get out of Kelly Ware is like a backup after Anthony Davis goes on the bench and Kelly Ware can go in. A really good scorer for a 6'10" center. His hook shot's pretty good. I think his scoring inside is really dynamic. So once he gets in the paint, you have to be really careful. Efficiency's pretty good for a center. Alrighty. Now we have the 18th pick. I believe I had Johnny Furphy going here. Yeah. Johnny Furphy. Johnny Furphy, another one of my favorite players in the draft. I believe I took him as my 8th or 9th best prospect in the draft that I did the other day. 6'7" shooting guard, 19 years old. He only averages 9 points a game, but from all the highlights in college I've watched from him, he's a super dynamic scorer, and I've compared him to Lowry before. I'll do it again. He's kind of like Lowry. Not a really good passer, which I don't think is too concerning for a shooting guard, but still kind of is. 4.9 rebounds is pretty solid for his height. Efficiency is really good. I think his shooting and his ability to score at the basket and just kind of anywhere is scoring super good, so I think that's what kind of sets him apart here from any of the other shooting guards like Keyshawn George, Jalen Tyson, Terrence Shannon. I'll be selecting him here at 18 for the Orlando Magic. Alrighty, let's see who I have going here. Tyler Smith. This is a big difference. I've selected Zach Edey here in the past, but I think Tyler Smith has just kind of been climbing my board along with a lot of other people. I mean, honestly, some people would say he's better than Mataz Buzelis. I personally put Mataz Buzelis a little bit ahead of Tyler Smith, but not by much. And if Mataz Buzelis is going 5th in my draft, and Tyler Smith's going all the way down to 19, I wouldn't be too mad with taking him a little higher because I just see his upside. I think the G League players are super athletic and can get to the basket with ease. And I think that's why I'll be selecting him here with the Toronto Raptors. Obviously, he's a 6'9" small forward. Alrighty, now we have the 20th pick. I'll be selecting Yves Massi, another one of my centers that I like in this draft. I like a lot of centers, in the draft, like the top three. So Ulysses Messi, Zach Edey, and then Kelly Ware. I like all the centers in this draft. I think they have lots of upside. Um, when I was first watching Ulysses Messi, I wasn't expecting much from him, but then like watching his highlights and everything, I saw like all the crazy dunks he was doing. Getting a decent amount of boards, not great, but he's a 6'10" center. But 19 years old gives him plenty of time to develop in the league, and I think just the way he attacks the basket in the paint is just immaculate. And you got to draft him here at 20 if you're the Cavaliers because you're in need of a center. I mean, I think they'll get rid of Jared Allen pretty soon, and then Mobley can play power forward. Ulysses Messi can maybe slide in there at the center, but he'll probably come off the bench because I don't see him as a year one starter by any means. Alrighty, now we're at the 21st pick. Well, I'll be selecting Isaiah Collier. Kind of an obvious pick for me, I think. I could see him go anywhere from maybe, I don't know, it's hard to know. I would say 16 to 21. I could see him going anywhere within that radius. Just because he's a super good slasher, gets to the basket fast. You wouldn't think he would be too fast because he's 6'2", 205 pounds, and he looks big. And so you wouldn't think that he would be able to go super fast, but he manages to. And I think that's why I'll be selecting him here for the 21st pick in the draft in New Orleans Pelicans. Obviously, his stats are pretty good. 19 years old, 16.3 points per game, 4.3 assists, 2.9 rebounds. I think those are kind of like the perfect stats for a guy his height, and I think it's pretty obvious to select him here, like I said. Alright, now with the 22nd pick, I'll be selecting Tyler Kolek. Like I mentioned, I like players who have higher assist numbers, and Tyler Kolek's probably easily the best passer in this draft, and probably easily my second favorite point guard in this draft, because like I said, I like Bub Carrington a lot, and for his height, 6'1", he gets 4.9 rebounds, which is super good. You can tell he hustles. 15.3 points, so he's not just a pass first kind of guy. He can score too. He can take the ball, drive, he can shoot. Great player, I think, for the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, they need that playmaking. Probably need to get rid of Kevin Durant here soon. And then you can pair him with somebody else who they trade for, and then Devin Booker. I see him as being a starter here in a while. Maybe not first 2-3 years, maybe 5 years. It could take that long, but I think eventually he will be great. Alright, now with the 23rd pick, I'll be selecting Keyshawn George. I believe last time I was doing a mock draft, I didn't even take him in the first round. That shows you kind of what I think about him. I've compared him to Keontae. I mean, he's not really like Keontae at all, but he's just kind of a taller shooter. Pretty solid pick there for the Bucks at 23. I think they definitely want to select someone who can shoot the lights out. And then with the 24th pick, I'll be selecting Zach Edey. I could see him going way earlier in the draft, but I just think a lot of NBA teams are passing up on him. Not quite sure why, because just by looking at these stats, you know he's great. If you watch March Madness, you can tell that he's one of the best centers in this draft. And I kind of see him as maybe, I don't know, I don't really want to say Chet Holmgren, but yet I kind of do, because I could see him going way earlier in this draft, and I don't know why NBA teams are passing up on him. But they might not be. I mean, tonight somebody could take him way earlier, but it just seems like NBA teams aren't a big fan of him. 7'3" center, 25 points per game, 2 assists, solid, 12.2 rebounds, great efficiency. It's hard to pass up on a guy who's this big. At 22 years old, that's kind of a little bit concerning because he's on the older side, but I don't see it as a problem for Zach Edey. Obviously, he's the biggest center in this draft and kind of reminds me of Wemby a little bit just because of his height, but that's about it. Alright, let's see who I had going here. I have DaRon Holmes going here. 20.4 points as a power forward who's 6'8", 21 years old, 8.5 rebounds, 2.6 assists. Kind of reminds me of Mitchell Robinson, who's already on the Knicks. And I think you probably want to keep him at a power forward since he's not quite tall enough. But I think he's right on the border there. He can maybe be a center if you want him to. Efficiency's decent for a center. I think DaRon Holmes is a super solid player. I could have took Kyle Filipkowski here, but I'm not a big fan of him, and he's falling on a lot of people's mock drafts and also falling on mine because I just don't really see the potential in him. Alright, now I'll be selecting Tristan da Silva to the Wizards. Obviously, they don't really need a small forward, but anything can help them. You'd think Colorado would be better since they do have a lot of really good prospects in this draft. And I think Tristan da Silva is one of the worst ones out of this Colorado stack. And 16 points per game, pretty solid, but obviously you're going to get that when you're 22 years old. You start to get more points because you're the older players, like one of the older players competing against younger players. 2.4 assists, 5.1 rebounds. All of that's pretty solid. His efficiency is pretty good. I think he's just a solid wing that kind of does what he needs to do. Obviously, a great shooter, which is kind of what you want out of a wing, especially a 6'8" wing. Alright, now with the 27th pick, I'll finally be selecting Kyle Filipkowski. I think this is a great positional fit for the Timberwolves, although I could see them selecting Ryan Dunn, giving them another great defensive player, which I've selected Ryan Dunn in the past, but this time I'll be selecting Kyle Filipkowski, power forward out of Duke, 6'10", 20 years old. He has pretty good stats, but when you watch him, he's just not very dynamic, kind of like the rest of the power forwards and centers are in this draft, as I've mentioned, and I think that's kind of what makes him fall this far is because he's just not as mobile and dynamic as the other players in this prospects in this draft. And so I think that's what makes him fall this far. People also had him going like 22 towards the start of mock drafts, but I think they've dropped him down quite a bit. I said I would select Ryan Dunn for the Timberwolves, but since I selected Kyle Filipkowski there, I'll be selecting Ryan Dunn here. I can't see him going out of the first round. Obviously his offense is pretty terrible. He gets quite a bit of boards, so you can tell he hustles, but his defense is where he's great. He gets like 2 blocks a game, I believe, in college, and then I think a steal. So that's great, and I think that'll easily convert to the NBA because usually defense does. And 20 years old, be selecting him here at 28. I think that'll help Denver out a lot. Obviously they already have Peyton Watson, which I kind of compare him to Peyton Watson a little bit. Alright, here with the 29th pick, I'll be selecting Pacom Dadier out of France, a shooting guard, 6'7". People say that if the Jazz get him here at 29, that's a steal, and I kind of agree with that. A taller shooting guard who can kind of develop, because I believe he's 18, maybe he's 19, but I'm pretty sure he's one of the youngest players in this draft, and I think that's probably the perfect pick for the Jazz at 29, although they could have selected somebody like Terrence Shannon, Baylor Shireman, Jalen Tyson, all the way to Bobby Clintman, but I think they kind of made the right pick there with Pacom Dadier just because he's younger. Unlike Terrence Shannon, he's on the older side. although I'm still a big fan of him. And then I think Bobby Klintman's kind of the no-brainer here for the Celtics. I mean, they severely need a power forward, and that's what he is. Power forward out of Sweden, 6'8". I mean, fairly athletic. I mean, not super athletic, but fairly. I think his defense is kind of what stands out to me, and if you add more defense to the Celtics, I mean, maybe you're talking about running it back again for another NBA Finals. Yeah. I think that the Knicks are contenders after getting Mikal Bridges, sorry about that. So I think they can kind of challenge the Celtics now, and I believe that's what they're going to do this next playoffs, and I think they're going to be a great team during the regular season. I think Mikal Bridges is a great player who can play really good defense and knock down threes when he has to, and I think that's kind of another player that you need in the playoffs, and all of them are out of Villanova, and I think those are all great players in the playoffs, and so I think that'll help them out a lot. So maybe that's breaking news to you, maybe it's not. So here's the recap of the draft. We got Reza Shea 1, Alex Sarr 2, Reed Sheppard 3, Stephon Castle 4, Mataz Buzelis 5, Rob Dillingham 6, Donovan Clingan 7, Ron Holland 8, Dalton Connect 9, Bub Carrington 10, Tajane Salon 11, Cody Williams 12, Devin Carter 13, Jacoby Walter 14, Nikola Topic 15, Jared McCain 16, Kelly Ware 17, Johnny Furphy 18, Tyler Smith 19, Yavis Masih 20, Isaiah Collier 21, Tyler Kolek 22, Keyshawn George 23, Zach Edey 24, Dayron Holmes 25, Tristan Da Silva 26, Kyle Filipkowski 27, Ryan Dunn 28, Pacum Dadier 29, Bobby Klintman 30. Yeah, that pretty much wraps up the mock draft. Obviously it's draft day, and so I thought I'd better get one more mock draft out before the draft occurs, and this is what I kind of got. So pretty much wraps things up. This was your Sports Boys, over and out.